Danielle McLaughlin, a Clinton supporter and Democratic strategist, and Betsy McCoy, Trump supporter and former New York Lieutenant Governor. Ladies, thank you both for being with us. So let's look at this here, because the headline is 39 different times that Hillary Clinton could not recall or remember the answer to questions from the FBI regarding these emails and what C meant, whether it was classification, whether it meant classified, whether it meant confidential. How much of a problem, let me ask you, Danielle, is this for Hillary Clinton when it comes to, as Donald Trump said, a lot of people who think that charges should have been brought? And let me be very clear here, this does not indicate at all that criminal charges should have been brought. But go ahead.
I think we need to unpack it. So there's been a lot of talk about the fact that she said, "I don't recall," in an interview 39 times in an interview that lasted nearly 4 hours. So that's about 10 times in an hour. And I've sat in these rooms with FBI agents, with clients when they're doing these kinds of sessions. And 10 times is not a lot. You have to also remember that some of these things were in 2009. So, 7 years earlier. And frankly, I think we need to hold Hillary Clinton to a standard that the rest of us might be held. And that is realistically that I don't recall some of the things that happened 7 years ago.
All right. Do you want to respond to that,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor?
Shockingly, Mrs. Clinton said that she could not recall whether she ever received training on how to protect classified information. And she also failed to get training for her staff, her aides, on how to protect classified information, even though the State Department requires it. So regardless of criminality, it's obvious that Mrs. Clinton isn't responsible enough to serve as President of the United States. The President receives a classified briefing every morning. She would not be able to keep that information protected.
Let me ask you, Danielle, RNC Chair Reince Priebus came out calling this release a devastating indictment of Hillary Clinton's honesty and judgment. This is hitting her in a place where she is very, very vulnerable with voters. Does this give enough credence to that assertion? I mean, could it cost Hillary Clinton votes?
It could, and I think the Republicans obviously want that to happen. So what they're trying to do is kick up enough dust so that people hear these alluring headlines, but they don't necessarily get down into the facts. So let's look at some of these facts. There were 68 email chains out of 30,000 that contained classified information. That's a small fraction of the emails that Clinton sent and received. And per her testimony on Benghazi, at the time, none of those emails were marked classified. So the problem with these emails is every time a new set of emails comes out, for example, this next 15,000 that we've heard about, Republicans say email scandal and hope that the American people won't actually look a little bit further into these and actually examine the facts.
Okay, Hillary Clinton's been trying to explain this email controversy for more than a year, for nearly 18 months at this point. Lieutenant Governor, I mean, does this controversy still have life because the explanation just doesn't seem solid, or is it because her opponents continually want to keep this as a headline?
No, it goes to the very basic issue. Is she capable, is she responsible of taking on a huge job like running the United States government? After all, Mrs. Clinton has never run anything except the State Department, and her track record there obviously is very tainted because she has left it in such chaos with so many doubts about the confidentiality of the information that was passed from one diplomat or one aide in the State Department to the other. And it goes to something bigger than that. We basically have a contest here between someone who has earned her living as a blabber, giving speeches and earning speech fees and writing books about herself, versus someone who has built 185 businesses and manages them effectively. So it's the builder versus the blabber, and it seems quite obvious that Mrs. Clinton probably couldn't run a lemonade stand. She doesn't seem to have the capability of knowing what her staff is doing and whether she and her staff are complying with regulations to protect the mission of her department.
Okay, Lieutenant Governor, I want to get this last question out here, because there is an article in the New York Times this morning talking about tensions between Donald Trump and the RNC, particularly after the immigration speech that he gave in Phoenix earlier this week. According to the Times, they spoke to 6 senior Republicans with detailed knowledge of both groups, saying tensions threaten to diminish the party's ability to work smoothly with Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump needs this party to win, doesn't he? I mean, of course, there are fundraising efforts that keep them both together. But do you know how big the rift is and how it may compromise his campaign?
I think most Republicans regard Mr. Trump's performance earlier this week, his speech, as a tour de force in which he demonstrated vast knowledge of the immigration issue. He analyzed the flaws of the current policy, and he told Americans that he would give them an immigration policy that protects Americans from serious crime and from the strained resources that they're experiencing right now because of unlimited illegal immigration.
Danielle, I want to give you the last word.
I mean, this idea that we have unlimited illegal immigration is utter nonsense. And frankly, what Trump is proposing is what Obama has been trying to set forth in immigration over the last couple of years with DACA and DAPA. So focusing on illegal immigrants that are particularly dangerous, the criminals, those who have entered and re-entered multiple times, while sitting at the back of the line and giving some status, not legal status, but some status to folks who are paying taxes, who have children here, who are productive members of American society.
Mm-hmm. Danielle McLaughlin and Lieutenant Governor Betsy McCoy, we appreciate both of you ladies. Thank you for being here.